Hey guys, am I live? Am I live? Is this thing on? Hello, hello? This is weird. It says it's live, but no one's there. Okay, cool, because I don't see it. All right, there, it just popped up. Everyone's there. Great, cool, because I was expecting it to automatically. Oh, she's doing it right now. Just a second, guys. Looks like somebody needs. I have an ad for my own thing. I have to skip the ad in 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I have that here because the laptop that's actually doing the streaming is behind me, so it stays powered on, and I'm seeing everyone's comments here on the iPad, which you can see here on the screen. And this way I also get to see everything not reversed, because what shows up on the computer is reversed. And I'm still trying to get the hang of all this stuff. Monday, just past Monday, there was a new version of the Mac OS update, which lets me use my iPhone as a webcam without hooking up HDMI cables, which are expensive and kind of clunky. And I had to use a different app to operate the camera, etc. This promises to give easier, good results. And I wanted to test this. I'm going to do a full Q&A tomorrow evening, probably about 8 p.m. Central Time. So it's fair to the East and West Coasters. But I wanted to do this first as a test roll, and I figured I'd fix this Blues Junior while testing it. Let's see. Thanks, 75YBA. What a beautiful amp. Thank you. I assume you mean the Excalibur in the photo, since there wasn't a thumbnail. It's just my default image. I have tried very hard to make that beautiful. But this is quite pretty looking. Let's see if we can make it sound right. So first things first, a lot of zip ties to get out of the way so I can disconnect things. They're a little bit overzealous with the zip ties on these. And I have to make sure that I have my own audio off here. Otherwise, I get some dance hall echo effects with a rock steady beat. Flat beat. Anyway, let's see here. That's what I want. I want to connect a bunch of stuff. The amp is discharged and all that fun stuff. As the handle begin to slide off this old screwdriver set pliers from it. If you do this yourself, take detailed pictures of where everything was, or draw it out, whatever, so you can put it back where it was when you came to it. Not quite my first rodeo, so I know where everything goes at this point. Famous last words. Super Dangerous Studios, man, I really enjoyed your Flint video a couple weeks back. Was it only a couple weeks back? Anyway, really great musical presentation of everything, really good ideas in playing, and a great sense of humor. So you guys who don't know Super Dangerous Studios, check him out. He does good fun stuff. Real good player. All right, here, let's disconnect the primaries. It's always fun to disconnect these without breaking them because the crimp is so fragile. And the primary center tap. And again, the handles are creeping off of this old set of pliers. I've got some better ones I usually use for this, but they're on the front porch. I've been pulling nails out of some century-old woodwork. Thanks, Kevin. I tried as hard as I could to make that thing pretty, without just looking like yet another Marshall or Fender copy. Let's see here. And I disconnect the speaker and foot switch so that I can have a little bit of slack. The jack's there. So. I like the sound of the Blues Junior. Once the bright cap is removed, and you use the mids pot as little as possible because I used more of a Marshall schematic, and that 25K pot gets a bit overzealous. I just don't like the longevity as they come from the factory, or lack thereof. And a too hot bias does not sound good either. Some poor guy in the comments on some video, I think it was the Matchless, when I said that the 19 watt, 16 watt for EL84 was ridiculous, and that data sheets matter, said, "What are you talking about, man? It should be almost on the point of death. It's a Blues amp." And I, living in Memphis, Tennessee, birthplace of something called the Blues, had the temerity to say, "What the hell is a Blues amp?" A Blues amp? It's not in any of the design books I know of. All those Blues guys used Fenders. Live at the Regal. It was cut probably with a Tweed Tweed Basement or Tweed Twin. And Leo biased those things pretty conservatively, like 45, 47% idle. And B.B. King would not have been having any work done to those amps. He just bought them and used them, and when they messed up, he got something else. And Live at the Regal sounds pretty good for Blues to me. Let's see. Hey, Mark Schaefer. The no solder fix for hum. Glad that worked out for you. It's just a weirdness of the Blues Junior design. This side of the phase inverter can be prone to oscillations. Sometimes you need to put a snubber cap across the plate, but certainly getting the primary wire away from the ribbons helps an awful lot. Sounding boxy. Blues Juniors are prone to sounding boxy because of two things. It's a very small 1x12 tab with not a lot of internal volume in terms of the cubic inches. So you're going to get that. The 25K mids pot contributes to that. And they come with a lot of different speakers. So, this one's got the Jensen, which is not that bad. As far as that goes, the earlier, just the ones that just said Fender branded, they were made by Eminence, tend to be pretty damn boxy. And some of them come with Alnicos now and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, they can sound very boxy indeed. People aren't making that up, but there's always a variation. What's my favorite speaker in the hot rod? Oh man, favorite speaker varies by player. If I had one, probably, in a 1x12, I'd probably go with a ET65, G12C, or Creamback 65. And a 2x12, I like the ET65 Veteran 30 combo. We've got another client who loves the Veteran 30 in all his hot rods. They're all-purpose, clean to dirty speakers. The G12C can get a little crispy on the highs if you use a lot of overdrive. The Runt 20 is a good, really well made amp for the price point. The sounds it gets are not the sounds I like, but I hear what people like about them. Do I have any tech friends near Baltimore? I'm sure I do, but I'd have to look at the map that I have access to showing where my fellow techs are, and I don't know who's around Baltimore off the top of my head. Okay. But you saw the video on this amp earlier this morning. Has a stripped input jack that's getting replaced. I spoke to the owner, and since it's inexpensive, once the board is pulled, to do this as well, we're also changing filter caps and these two screen grid resistors. I'm going to cool the bias. So none of this is modding, as in trying to make it sound like a different app. It's just preventative maintenance and making it sound like a better version of itself. Some places where whoever did this strayed from sanity, and one of those resistors is floating around underneath those ribbons. I'll get it off when the board comes out. I do accept things most of the time long distance, and usually just I only want the chassis, and people send that. It saves a lot. Right now, I'm still playing catch up on a lot of stuff. I got a lot of backlog generated during COVID, and it's not like it's over as far as supply chain issues in the world. They are getting better. I am getting caught up, but for right now, I'm not accepting any outside work. I continue to accept work for local clients because I can't say, sorry, you just gotta wait, but I just don't want to piss people off with a 6-month turnaround. G12Qs are cool. Very low wattage, if I'm recalling the model. I've got one here that's a 20 watt, 12 inch, 4 ohm. Someone gave me because they ordered it by mistake and they didn't feel like the hassle of selling and shipping a speaker. And I have yet to find an app that would be suitable for by itself. 4 of them, though, would be quite nice. Get a jazz sound out of it. Oh, you don't need on the Runt 20. I would not use a Friedman Runt 20 for jazz. I mean, you could kind of, sort of, but really what you're describing there would be a Princeton. If you want a small 12, 15 watt amp that really focuses on a beautiful, clean sound for jazz and blues and rock and country too. I would take a Princeton Reverb over Runt 20 for that application. Runt 20 has a nice sounding clean channel, but it's really the entire voice of the amp is structured towards mids and more aggressive stuff. I don't know. You can do it and get lovely sounds, but that would not be my recommended amp for that. Just as I would not recommend a Princeton for someone who really loves Metallica. Horses for courses. Does cooling the output tube bias affect the amp's volume at all? Very good question, and I will answer in just a moment, but the wind just blew open my front door, so I'll be right back. We have a cold front coming through. It's coming through with a vengeance as everything vibrates. The mic did sound very far as I was walking in the other room. How's it sound now? Let me get back to the question about cooling the bias and changing the sound. This is going to be a fairly vague answer and explanation, because the real answer would be an hour talking about just this one subject. Let's say that this chassis is the range that a tube swings when it operates. And here's 50%, here's 100%, here's 0% idle dissipation. And you really want to have the tube swinging in this range as it amplifies a signal. Idle here, amplify here. Let's call this 80%. If this thing is swinging up to about 80, 85% when it's operating, that's great, because you're not exceeding the dissipation on the peaks. And then it idles down here 50%. And so with a fixed bias amp, which this is not, rather sorry, the Blues Junior is a fixed bias amp. So you want it to be cooler at idle and then swing hot when playing. A cathode bias amp, you would bias it here, this is where it sits at idle, and then as it swings, you play harder, it actually goes cooler. If this is set to too cool on a cathode bias amp, it swings down in the cold clipping area where you get crossover distortion. If it's biased too hot over here, it swings, like on a matchless, it swings up in the 90s. So you're always operating in kind of a hard part of the operation. The Blues Junior biases this fixed bias amp over here, like 110%. It swings hotter as you play, so you're never in the desired zone, and it's really hard on the tubes. So the real answer that won't get well actually involves diagrams and charts and talking about class A, class B, class AB, AB1, AB2, cold, hard, all this kind of complicated stuff. Basically, with a fixed bias amp, you want it to be biased somewhere between 45 and 70% dissipation. And then when you play through it, it gets up hotter, but it doesn't go too hot. So the mic still sounds very far and very roomy. Good day, Brad. So I'm supposedly using the microphone that's in my phone, not my laptop. Let me move closer to my laptop. Tell me if the sound gets better for you. Does the sound get better over here? Or is the sound better over here? All right, then what's happening is, even though I told it to use the mic built into my phone, it's using the mic built into my laptop. Damn. Let's see, is there a way to change that? All right, I got a solution. I'm moving the laptop closer to me. I thought that I had told it, I'm sure that I did tell it to use the mic in the camera and the phone, but for some reason it decided to do its own way. Like I said, this was at the beginning, a lot of people missed. This is a run for a new update on the phone. So is this good now? All right, well, I'm not using OBS. I'm just using the built-in YouTube streaming. And it told me that I had selected the mic in my iPhone, which is 8 inches from me right now. So I thought it was going to be sounding good. You were, I guess, the bulk of the video, you're hearing the mic 5-6 feet behind me. And now it's 2.5, 3 feet to my right. I'll get that ironed out before I do the next one. What I'm going to set up for the actual live stream Q&A I'm going to do tomorrow night is I'm going to set up a real microphone going into my USB interface. And that's what I'll be speaking into. And I'll just be using the phone for the camera. I was trying to get a quick and dirty good setup. And when I started this, people said it sounded great, so I figured it was working. You liars. All right, enough about the camera. Everyone congratulate Brad there. He just got hitched. She finally made an honest boy of him. And he should be off on honeymoon, not hanging out with us. A second monitor with the chat really large. I could probably make it bigger, but I'm not going to worry about it. Besides, this way we can get infinite things happening if I were to turn it just right. All right, so everything's disconnected here. Now the fun of pulling this down without damaging any of the ribbon connections. Viola. Probably would be good if I turned on my soldering iron at this point. And I'm going to dampen my sponge, which will tick off Brad no end. My old Haco 936 has served me well, and I've used a sponge, and I've not been burning through tips. But Scott Wilcox was sweet enough to send me a 951, the FX 951, the whole setup, which is gorgeous, and I'm going to be learning how to work it very soon. It's got a calibration routine. I've not had time to figure out how to calibrate it, but it has the copper stuff that Brad will approve of. I've always found those things frustrating because he ends up little bits of solder everywhere. Speaking of little bits of solder, I'm looking at the connections on the speaker and foot switch jack. They all look just fine. How's the quality of components in this amp? The components in here are fine. They're just used poorly. Aside from the pots and input jack, they're not fine. But the rest of it, and the IC brand filter caps, which you see, are gone. The rest of this is fine stuff, just not laid out and utilized properly. We've got at least 2 Australians here. We're ready for, we have the beginnings of a nice fight. All right. So I'm working on a PCB, so I've got my iron set to about 750 Fahrenheit. That's what, 375 Celsius-ish. I had a Weller. It was okay. When it cooled itself off too fast if I was using anything larger than maybe this, you know. Forget about doing a pot connection for a ground and a guitar or something. And I got frustrated, and I asked some friends who do this what they use, and a lot of people said Weller. I think the 930 or 890 or something. Not Weller, I said Haco, and I ordered the 936 because it was what was available, and it just killed the Weller that I had. And now I've got a fancy blue and yellow one that's smarter than I am. I've got to calibrate it. You have to tell it what the temperature is supposed to be per tip and fun stuff like that. It cools off in between uses. We're supposed to. I'll probably fall in love with it once I figure out how to use it. But I've got so many amps I need to get done last week that I have not made the time Sorry if I sound distracted while doing things like this. I'm supposed to wear bifocals, and I have not gotten them because that's like an admission that I'm old. So I listen to Husker Du and old REM and squint a lot rather than admit defeat. Where's my paper towel? Oh my god, I've done it again. Yeah, when I go on vacation, I'm off duty, so to speak. I wear contacts and then I have to put on readers to read menus in restaurants and stuff, or I just keep my sunglasses on and quietly ask Nikki to read the menus for me. Here, doing what I do, I'd have to use readers most of the time for close vision, and it messes me up because when I'm used to working wearing glasses, so for long stuff I'll look to the glasses, and then for close stuff I'll look over the glasses for this stuff kind of thing. And if I change the contacts, I've got to look through the readers most of the time, then over the readers for long vision, and it just messes me up. I just can't do the switch. If you ever want to feel all topsy-turvy, one eye doctor tried to get me to wear one contact for far distance and one contact for near distance, and he said you get used to it after a while. I felt like it was in a oh god, it'd be funny if I could remember the guy's name. We were a few miles outside of Barstow when the drugs took hold. Hunter S. Thompson. You know, I felt like I was a character in Hunter S. Thompson story. Could not do it. So I'm just getting the old filter cap leads out. I already removed the caps, the majority of the caps from the other side. These are just the leads sticking through. I'm not being precious about it. Just kind of heat them up, pull them out, and suffer the very minor quick burn to my fingers, because it's faster this way than using the pliers. I've got calluses on my calluses on my calluses at this point. So. All right, and to further piss off Mr. Australian, we'll go back with the braid and just quickly get the solder up without affecting the traces or pads or anything. He knows this is fine. This doesn't make as pretty a sound as his big desoldering station. I also want to have a crazy loud buffer. All right. You're a surgeon with precision. I don't know about a surgeon, but I do feel like I'm playing Operation a lot of the time. You know, back in the game Operation, where if you touch the wrong thing, you get the buzzer sound, and the little cartoon dude's nose would light up because he was getting electrocuted or whatever. Only it's for real. High stakes operation. That's my line of work. I really enjoy my job most of the time. You know, not so much the Blues Juniors. So there is a satisfaction that, hey, this is somebody's reasonably priced amp, and after I do this kind of work on it, they're getting something much closer to what Fender actually promised them in the beginning. But and it's not just restoring the very rare vintage amps or playing, you know, the unobtainium stuff that most people just dream of. You know, in the past week, I've had 2 videos up of really good players sitting in my living room playing their hollow bodies. Hal with his 2 Epiphones, his Sheridans, and John Bass with his 68 ES340, and both. And I get a chance to hear really great musicians from all over Memphis. That's cool, but I also take a perverse joy in being one of the few guitar channels that's just not like, and here's the Brown Sound episode, and here's the How to Sound Like Rage Against the Machine episode, and nothing against Van Halen or Rage Against the Machine or insert hard rock thing here. All music's great, but there's just such a focus on YouTube guitar channels on hard rock and metal, and the endless question, is rock dead? So I quite like it when I can feature other genres, and it's not just all one more, how do I get the appetite tone? That's real simple, the appetite tone. Steal the right amp from SIR, play really well, get recorded by that engineer in that studio that week, get mixed and mastered by the same guy. You'll get the appetite sound too. I love the 70s and hard rock. Also, people know I love Rush. I also love Wes Montgomery. I'm not capable of playing Wes Montgomery, so I sat down on the couch last night and worked out some bits from Xanadu, which is a lot easier to do than Wes Montgomery. I love almost all Led Zeppelin. I love Toys in the Attic, specific on Aerosmith. A few other bits, but certainly nothing after 1987. What's the best way to put this? I like Aerosmith. I don't like Diane Warren. I might like her as a person. In fact, my father-in-law is her cousin, but I've not met her. But I don't like all the great big rock ballads that they keep doing. That's a thing I'd be glad to miss. All right, so I've got the screen grid resistors out. 100 ohm half watts are going away. 2 watt 1Ks are going in place. The filter caps are out. We're going to replace those. The input jack is out. Got a little more solder I need to clean up there. I'm not going to do the sponsored thing. I make a pretty good living off the actual work I do, and I have a feeling that's going to continue. And I make enough revenue off the YouTube videos without doing anything extra. It makes it worth my while, and I enjoy the process. And it also keeps me very honest as a tech. If people see all my work, I can't take shortcuts. I can't be one of the guys I like to slam. I have decided, as much as feasible though, I'm going to branch out in what I feature, because a good buddy of mine owns a music store. And I was thinking he's got a Shure. What's the Shure? It's basically Sure's version of a 62 Deluxe, brown panel. Can't remember the model number. Someone chime in with that. He's got one of those. I think people would like to see how that's built. He's got quite a few amps that people will be interested in. They're brand new. There's nothing wrong with them. He's got the Ruby and Dream pedals and the third one from UA. I don't remember what the third one does. And a lot of that stuff, I could borrow on a Saturday, do a video on a Sunday, bring it back to shop Monday. I don't think he'd mind. And be able to show some different things on here that people would like. Not the Badger. We don't need no stinking. No, it's I can't remember what it's called. It's not the Badger. The Badger is more of the Marshall Vox combination thing he's got. Is revenue off YouTube more than I expected initially? Yeah, it's quite a bit more. The amps over 500 and amps over 1,000 really pushed that up for a while. But yeah, the ombre. That's right. We don't need no stinking Badger because we got an ombre. Oh my God! I just did something which could be interpreted as making fun of Hispanics. That's I'm more just acknowledging the existence of blazing saddles and all that. Please spare me any upset about that. It was just a thing. But much love to all my Latin friends. I don't play all those games. I have not been in touch with Phil McKnight. I like a lot of what he does, but I don't watch many of his videos. I don't watch many. What's the best way to put this? I watch very few app techs, and not very often. Most gear reviews leave me either cold or hostile for reasons cited. What I have seen of Philip, he seems very well intentioned. And he's a good player. I don't think he's always as aware of the actual whys for some of the differences he notes or points out. But yeah, it's really hard to know all the technical behind the scenes stuff. Is a change there? You may hear a change. Yes. Why do you hear it? That's when it gets difficult. And no one knows everything. I'm not holding myself up as like the guy who knows the secret. But I think he confuses causation and correlation a little bit. I'll just say that. It's hard for the average musician, even very intelligent guys and gals who really try to educate themselves, to know what's going on with all this stuff. I was watching a video, had a little solder left in that hole, a video by, can't remember his name. Seems like a really nice guy. The guy who runs throwback pickups, John something. He was doing a video showing or asking if there was a difference between potted and wax potted on his PAF reproductions. And he was great. He said, he felt like he heard more of a difference in the room, but on the playback, the difference was very subtle. He wonders how much of it he was making up. I don't think he was making it up. I think I wasn't that impressed with his recording. Number one, in terms of the fidelity. Number two, when you play a guitar through an amp, you're often 90 dB or more, and odds are when you're playing it back, you're playing it 70 dB. 75 dB. And the way our ears work is at louder volumes, we hear highs and lows more clearly. As the volume of the playback decreases, we hear the mids jump out. So there are a lot of things out there that aren't factored in. But in my experience, having played an awful lot of guitars, unpotted can sound better, but it's fairly useless for an awful lot of styles of music. And I have unpotted pickups in that 335. And there have been a couple of amps in the last couple of weeks I tried to use that with, and it was impossible. If you're 10 feet away from the amp, it just squealed because of unpotted pickups. And I used to have a problem with the potting in the bridge pickup of my SG, and you might have seen some videos where that thing squealed. I took it out and repotted it. And that pickup is still very bright, and that's with a nickel cover, and it's potted because there are other factors than just potting or the cover, and people don't factor all that in. Let's see, questions I missed. How can you review without technical electronics knowledge? Well, Brad, it's tricky because there are a million reviews of pedals and amps out there, and people don't know what the hell. They're just judging from the outside. They don't know what's going on the inside. There are very few amp reviews out there that are done by people qualified to give opinions on that. And that's just how it is. Fuchs are great. I'm not always nuts about the pots he uses, but he's not having huge failures with them. They sound good, and they're built well. $7,000 reviews of flavors of Tube Screamer. Yeah. 2004 Blues Junior. How can you tell when those caps go bad? They start stealing money out of your wallet while you're asleep. Let me grab one of these out of the bin. Can you see this? This is the positive end of a filter cap. This one's all squeezed because I use the pliers, and the lead comes out of there. On one that's already bad, typically they'll begin to leak, and you'll see often like an orange crumbly goo right here at this end. That's the visible sign. But before they're visibly bad, they can still be bad, and you'll begin to have hum and odd characters to the sound and oscillation. There's I think it's the Marshall JCM 900 SLX video from last week, where I was testing at the end and I was getting oscillation, and that was due to a bad filter cap that's about to get changed. So that's a way to hear what that can sound like. Hey, Bo, if you got a metal input jack on your Blues Junior, someone changed that out as far as I know, because I looked on Fender's website after you posted that this morning, and they only showed 2 models for sale, the Tweed and the standard Blues Junior 4, and they're exactly the same amp in different cabinets with different speakers. There's nothing different about them. And both of them in their current photos show plastic input jacks. So someone changed that out. Or maybe you're seeing the metal collar in the middle and not seeing the black plastic threads. I'm not trying to be mean. Hello from Kansas. How do I feel about a Crate Vintage 30 head amplifier? I don't feel about it, and it doesn't really affect me emotionally. I don't know that I've had a Crate Vintage 30. I know that the Club series and the V series in general tend to be pretty good amps. I don't know if the Vintage 30 falls into that. Well-designed PCBs, Lima box caps, pretty good layout. Not any major flaws in the ones that I've had in. The Club series can be hard to access for service, but the regular V series, or is it VTX? I can't remember, are pretty damn good. There's a couple up on my channel that I've done over the years. Do I have a favorite Halloween scary movie? Man, I haven't seen any movie that scared me since I was a kid. I don't find scary movies frightening. You want to scare me? Do The Audit, the 4-hour director's cut of The Audit. I'm not scared of really slow-moving guys wearing masks. I'm not scared of ghosts and all these things. The Shining was scary the first couple thousand times I saw it, and now I'm just admiring the artistry. I'll give you 3 that I think are honorable mentions. Pan's Labyrinth, The Orphanage, and The Devil's Backbone, which are 3 thematic of a kind of a loosely thematic trilogy by Guillermo del Toro, and they're all set in and dealing with the actual events of and the after effects of the Spanish Civil War, and they use horror and ghost stories as a framework to talk about real things. Pan's Labyrinth is not scary. I thought The Orphanage and The Devil's Backbone were pretty effective, but I'm not easily frightened. But I can admire people who are good at the craft involved with that kind of thing. Blair Witch, you know, I thought it was very brave of the girl to share her snot with the world like that. The movie was nonsensical. I was not frightened because it required too much of a suspense of disbelief that I didn't think they earned. But I don't. Maybe I should just switch to movie reviews and cooking instructions. Man, don't get me started on The Last Jedi. Oh man, that's some bullshit. Michael Moore movies scare the out of me. Yeah. All right. PCB Amps New York. You need my buddy Lane Sparber. LaneSparber. He's in Queens. Phenomenal tech. He'll take good care of you. I'm still mad about Last Jedi. I didn't like The Rise of Skywalker for shit either. I mean, I thought Force Awakens had potential, and then they just shat on each other after that. The two directors involved. You think a multi-billion-dollar industry like that was going to launch a trilogy would at least get the writers to agree with each other before they start making the damn things. Anyway. Where was I? Okay, yeah, I'm ready to put things back here. See, you guys distract me. You're bad for my health. I'm going to put in some new screen good resistors. Charred broccolini with chili, almond, and garlic. Hell yeah. Yeah, The Devil's Backbone is great. If you enjoy that, make sure you know Pan's Labyrinth, and then look for The Orphanage. A fun movie, and I can't believe I'm recommending this. It's not really a horror movie, but it's just part of you will be amazed that it was done at all, that it exists, and part of you will be amazed that such a silly thing was done so well. It's a Norwegian movie, and I believe it's, as I recall, it's all in Norwegian with subtitles, but it's still worth it. I think it's called Troll Hunter. And it is phenomenally entertaining, and the special effects are phenomenal, both for the budget that they would have had for a fairly small independent movie, and for the sheer imagination that they show. It's one of those things that was on. I was like, "What the hell is this, Troll Hunter?" And I watched the little Netflix preview of it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta watch that now. And I did, and it was awesome. On these screen good resistors, I'm not doing the full crimp because they just have almost no mass to them. There's no real need. And these 2 watts are not much physically larger than the half watts that were originally in there. I am mounting them off the board by about 1/8 of an inch, just in case there is any heating. But both going to 1Ks and 2 watts, these things should run pretty cool. So I don't think there's going to be any problem. But should one of the tubes develop a serious internal short, it's possible for one of these to get really hot or be damaged, and just that 1/8 of an inch off the board will keep all the damage contained within the 10-cent resistor. I guess these are about 30 cents as opposed to in the board. Much easier to change a resistor than a board. Time to warm up my rice and beans. Sounds good. I had some cold fried chicken and leftover mac and cheese from the cheap grocery store. See ya, Grinch. Grounding video number 2. It's been in the back of my mind to get to that, and I'm probably going to be like everything I mentioned that was a problem with the Marshall grounds in the first one. Here's how Leo got it right for the most part, and for any amp up to a Marshall level gain. Grounding it like Leo did in AB763 will get you good results. The real trick is going to be the third part of the grounding video, which is where it gets complicated with multi-channel higher gain amps, but I just haven't had much time. Dropping C1 value on this one? Are you asking that, Brad? It's that one. So where's my meter at? Trollegarin. Is that right? How do you? I guess you can't tell me how to pronounce that. Sorry, my Norwegian is limited to reruns of Prairie Home Companion. So 2.2K. Tommy Mitchell, I am so backed up on work. I'm not accepting any work right now. I'm trying to get caught up on a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm about 1,200 emails behind in replying. And I'm sorry, there's only me. I don't know anyone around Chicago, but I'm sure that there are. Sorry. It's just hard to keep up with everything right now. Let's see. Next thing to do is the filter caps. So I've got F and T's for this one. I've got to straighten out the leads of these damn things. And someone said this end of this tool is for that, and it is, and it will work for a quarter watt resistor, but the leads will not go into this. This is for a smaller thing, so just got to do it by hand. Oh, the first stage bypass cap? What is this first stage bypass? But what do you mean by the first stage bypass cap? Are you talking about over here? I don't know any amp techs in Hawaii. I get asked that all the time. I'm sorry. I imagine that supplies are very difficult. Probably the same stupid 47 or 22 that it usually is. Yeah, it's a stupid 47. Should be a 4.7 or a 2.2, but I'm not redesigning the damn thing. I'm just fixing what goes boom. The last amp from Hawaii I had in was a what model was that? Was it a Gibson? No, it wasn't a Gibson. It was one I'd never heard of. It had like a bowling ball cover, and it was from the estate of Walter Becker. Man, Brad, there's so many things in here I'd like to change, but unless someone hires me to make this into a better amp, and really better, and it involves changing a whole bunch of other stuff. I just fix the stuff that keeps it from working right. 47 is crazy, and I wouldn't do that in my personal one. But you and I have the option of saying, I'm going to spend an hour on this just cut for the hell of it. When it's billable, we can add up crazy amounts on these things. Where in Midtown were you, Kyung Chan? I'm in Cooper Young. Nice, yeah. I went to White Station 7th and 8th grade, but then I went to Memphis Catholic after that. My nephew just graduated from White Station, as in just last spring. Treadwell, you survived. Go Spartans. Yeah, I've played some Andersons. They're really good examples of someone else's guitar. $700 upgrade on Blues Junior. Do they know you could have gotten the deluxe reverb for the same price? By the way, this amp is taking me way longer to do than normal because I'm talking to you guys during it. That time will not be reflected in the client's bill. He's getting charged an hour and a half for all of this, which is what it would have taken me if I wasn't chatting away. But I also need to do a big cleanup of my space tonight and tomorrow morning, probably. And I'm kind of putting it off. My wife is going to be out of town for a couple of days starting tomorrow, so I can take over the living room while stuff leaves the office, so I can sweep and vacuum and mop and all that, really get it clean. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to do a much more official Q&A. To further test the tech setup of all this fun stuff, because I'm going to be on Tone Talk Friday, November 4th. So that's a week from this Friday. And I want to have all my audio video stuff remedied and refined by then. So if I make an ass of myself, I'll do it while looking and sounding my best. Modern production 5751s. Oh man, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, it had a different answer. My answer now is if you have a company that has current production 5751s in stock, you've already won the lottery. The tongue soles and the JJs are passable. I think JJ doesn't market as a 5751 so much as they market as a low gain or mid gain 12AX7. I've had the opportunity to get quite a few new old stock JAN, Joint Army Navy 5751s, typically Phillips from the 70s, though, from Tube Depot for like $30 to $40. When possible, I like to do that. People make way too much of old tubes, though, as far as describing the magic. Well, a lot of today's new old stock is yesterday's old and not quite passing QA. The stuff that would not have sold 10 years ago now is the only stuff left. People paid primo for it. It's like in that video of the Mike Landau Blues DeVille, and just saying that Hot Rod DeVille, just saying that makes me throw up a little bit in the back of my mouth. I put it in an old RCA from the 60s in V1 because I knew that tube, other than being microphonic, had no other issues. And someone was saying that that sounded amazing. What could they could get that sounds like that? It didn't really sound amazing. It just wasn't noisy or hummy. It sounded pretty much exactly like, I would say, a good tongue sol or his vein would sound like in there, you know. especially in that stage with so much attenuation between the first and second stages of a blues DeVille. You're not getting particular magic. You'll hear if a tube is bad, but you're not going to get the same wow that you might in the first stage of, say, a super lead from 1968 to 1974. Pisvane, yeah, man, I don't know Pisvane, and I come from a company that uses a silent P, but they should have talked to some English-speaking consultants before naming that new venture. Currently available EF86s I like. Man, I don't like the JJs, the Electro-Harmonics, and that pretty much is everything as far as I know. New old stock is just so much better, but then you get into money, and there's no guarantee that the new old stock EF86 will last more than 6 weeks before it starts to develop problems too. It's a problematic tube. All right, it is time to install the new jack. It's getting the Switchcraft long bushing 12A. It's got some leads on it already because I used it as a test purpose. I think I hooked it up. Yeah, this is when I connected to one of those 63 AC30s just as a way to connect an external cab to it. So let me undo those funky old leads. And I'm going to remove the solder from those so I can get a fresh start. Let me find a plug. A lot of people use helping hands, little sets of clamps and alligator clips to hold things. I'm going to get the solder off here without burning myself. I'm going to put that jack on this speaker plug. Jimbo, yeah, I'm just changing the caps, screen good resistors, and input jack on this Blues Junior, and then I'm going to cool the bias, put it together. Not anything really that special, kind of just a typical Tuesday kind of thing to do. Or is it Monday? I can never remember. I guess it's Tuesday. Anyway, just got all the solder off, and I didn't burn myself, and I didn't have to set the little clamp that takes up real estate on the bench. How would I rate this amp versus the 68 Vibro Champ? I've not had the 68, but oh yeah, I have. They added reverb to the damn thing. Their 68 Vibro Champ is a real insult to the concept of a 68 Vibro Champ. It's got a digital reverb. You know, there are things about it which are better than their other reissue amps, and that they were honest and used a PCB with radial caps, and they're not going to have the same problem as they do with this stupid axials like in this. But it is not a Vibro Champ. It doesn't sound like a Vibro Champ, and that sounds like a fairly good Fender clean amp, which for some reason has a digital reverb, which doesn't sound that great. Do I have a favorite dB meter app? No, I don't. I've got one, and it's kind of cute, but it's not calibrated. So I don't know if it's accurate. You know, I want to get one of those dB meters that I can hang on the wall in the background of my videos when I do the amp playing test, like they have on that pedal show. But I need to get one of those, and I need to get a boring little accurate one so I can take the actual measurement with the accurate one and then calibrate the one that looks pretty on the wall for you guys. And it's just a cost and time that I've not spent yet. Furman, Variax, and Brown Box. Furmans don't do a lot unless you have like a $4,000 unit where you're actually getting a regulator as well. And I have a Monster, what is this thing called? Monster Power Pro 2500 in my rack here, and almost everything gets powered through that. Amps all get powered through that. I use it not because it makes the power sound better. It doesn't. It has some real basic filtering, the same stuff you get in a outlet strip you get at Home Depot. It's got a AC meter on it. I can look at it right now and see that we've got between 123 and 124 coming out of the wall of Memphis. And it shows me if there's a fault in the ground. And if the voltage goes over 128 volts AC, it shuts off, so that it's just a built-in safety thing. And it's convenient. If I power everything off, it powers the speakers, the power amp for the speakers off before everything else, or after everything else. I don't remember what it is. Stuff like that. Stuff that mattered a lot more back when I was using it for a guitar rack of effects. Yeah, the 68 Vibro Champ has bloody digital reverb. Yeah. Well, the Vibro Champ never had reverb, so they stuck reverb in a new amp and called it a 68 Vibro Champ Reverb. So, you know. Oh, Chris Bucks blew up on him during performance. Well, yeah, that'll happen. I saw a video of Chris Buck going to Fender, and I think they gave him a deluxe reverb reissue. Hope that one doesn't blow up on him. He's a phenomenal player. But and I understand why he wants that Fender support, because they'll put him in ads and more people find out about him. But I did find it interesting that he preferred the sound of the 65 reissue to the 64 hand wired, and he's absolutely correct. But it's that was nice to see someone actually using their ears as opposed to their wallet. The Zellweger tones. We have Zellweger tones, but I prefer. Oh, crap! Can't remember her name. It would have been a better joke. They're both in Chicago. Zellweger and the really hot one who's married to Michael Douglas, and I can't remember her name. She's even Welsh, which makes it more painful. But Catherine Zeta-Jones, yeah. So I'm not here to objectify women, but I gotta acknowledge that Catherine Zeta-Jones in Chicago made you forget that Zellweger girl even existed. Apparently, there's some Zellweger amps that Brad needs to forget existed. Oh, don't get me started on Bob Jica, man. On my Facebook page, Sonic Audio's got a Facebook page. It used to be my primary means of sharing information. I've got some Jicas up there if you want to see how exactly not to build an amp unless you hate your customers and want everyone to know you're an idiot. I have no views on the PV Bravo. I'm sorry, I don't play a lot of inexpensive amps because I don't have any interest in them myself, and they tend not to come in because they cost more to repair than my bench fee. So I don't see a lot of stuff in that price range. Well, Walter, I'm glad you thought that the RCA sounded amazing, but you were hearing the amp at very low volume through the lav mic, which was clipped to the brim of my hat. And it sounded flattering, I'm sure, but being in the room with it, it sounded like any other good AX7 would have sounded. I'll tell you, the more gain in a particular stage, the more variation between tubes we'll have, and there's just not that much gain happening in most Fenders, especially in the Hot Rod DeVille, where they have so much attenuation between the first and second stage. You get an amp like a Marshall, where each stage has a lot more gain, and there are fewer stages, and there's less attenuation between stages. You'll hear the differences that would be incremental or dismissible in a Fender can become more apparent, but people still make too much of it. If you have a good Marshall that's in good shape, almost any set of good tubes, it will sound great. It may sound slightly different with JJs than Mullard reissues than with old Brimars or Tungsrooms, but people more on the output tubes than on the preamp tubes. Preamp tubes make a little bit less difference than people seem to think. Thanks, Timit. Which vendor tube out for PSG? Who is PSG? What is PSG? Oh, Rhett's going with Port City. Good luck to him. I've had some Port City pearls come in. I thought he was all about AC30s and divided by 13s and stuff. He seems like a really nice guy and he plays very well. Oh, I'm supposed to be fixing an amp. Let me get some wire. Oh, for pedal steel guitar. PV Nashville 400. That'll do you. I actually turned I don't remember if it was a Hot Rod DeVille or Hot Rod Deluxe or Blues DeVille or something. One of them's. I turned one of those into a really nice sounding pedal steel amp for a friend of mine in town. Because he wanted something different from all the pedal steel guys who are using big solid state PVs. So I gave him something a little more akin to I don't know if you guys are going to know this. Dumble did some minor Fender tweaks on supers and stuff and called it his Phoenix mods. A little bit of that kind of stuff. It's a little bit of local feedback at each stage done in specific ways. I didn't have the Dumble in front of me to copy. I just took that as the inspiration and said, well, if I were to do that, why would I do that? Where would it be good to do that? How would I do that? Let's tweak. So Dumble Phoenix inspired without being a clone. It's just like, oh, let's see what can be done if we just do a little bit of feedback at almost every stage, just to keep it really clean and get that swing. And it came out really well for pedal steel. With the Strat, it was almost painful. My DR65 has power tube rattle, change tube, damper rings, still rattles. What will be the socket? What tubes did you change for? Did you swap out JJs for JJs? What makes a good steel amp? Well, most steel players want it really clean with a low noise floor and really fast transients. See you, Brad. Yeah, if you swap JJs for JJs in your deluxe reverb, you'll have recurring, or you're likely to have recurring output tube rattle. JJs for the past 4 years have been real prone to becoming microphonic in a combo like a deluxe reverb. So I would suggest the Ultra Harmonic 6v6s instead. I've had much better luck with those. Have you ever known Brad to use a euphemism? %90 of what he says is what other people use euphemisms for. Mojo tone kits, they're all right. They often have errors in the instructions. And a lot of times, people who build their kits don't actually secure the fiberboard to the chassis, because I don't think they specifically. Actually, no, I've read the instructions. They say you can, but it's not necessary that the weight of the components will actually hold things in place. No. And so it's hard to. I have not ordered one of their kits to build and then tried to follow their instructions. That might make for a funny video. But I have had their kits come in that someone has tried to do according to their instructions, and I have found errors in the instructions and flat out wrongheadedness in the instructions. But the quality of the components are fine. The quality of the board is good. It could be done very well. Something is smoking. That's just fumes from the soldering iron coming up. Sorry, I don't have the little air vacuum thing like Brad does. I like to live dangerously. All right, I'm almost ready to show you guys what I've been doing here. It's weird doing this while chatting. One of the other reasons I'm doing this little chat today is my wife is doing Zooms all afternoon. She's doing student evaluations for her grad students or something. And so I cannot be making with the rock and the roll and the high volumes, as is my vaunt. So with the big bang and the boom. Deuce VT needs repaired. Must have mods. Now, there aren't any mods doing one of those. Just change every electrolytic and measure every transistor. All right, so I've got this wired, pretty standard, shunting to ground. I've got my leads a little extra long because I want them to bend over. So the next thing I'll do is strip off those ends. Hey, B-side, I'm sorry I didn't notify you. I only gave it about a 15-minute warning. So, Corey Spence, what's the loudest amp you've ever heard? Passing signal or oscillating? I don't know what would technically be the loudest amp I've had in potentially. As far as the output section goes, I know that it would be down to the various SVTs I've had and some high watt DR103s. And that Dumble clone, the solid steel string Singer, would be up there. And that Park 150 watt would be up there. But when you factor in the output section plus the amount of gain in the amp, it would probably come down to that steel string Swinger or whatever, and the Park. But knowing that those are very loud amps, I have never subjected myself to the full output because I don't want to go deaf. This room I'm in is like 11 by 16, something like that. So not the best scenario for the mega wattage stuff. All right, let's do the positive first. This is always good to be positive. I'll bring that over, and I'm going to get it to 2 of its pads for a little bit of reinforcement. I'm not going to worry about going into the second pad, second hole. Just want to contact that pad. And I'll reflow that a little bit better in just a moment. Dang it. So much easier when people aren't watching. All right, my thought on this is that the hole it actually goes through is the primary connection. Should something go wrong there, it has this backup connection here. I'm just making sure that a little bit of excess isn't contacting the ground plane on the board. I trust those coatings on the boards only so much to insulate and isolate. Okay, that's good. We do the ground the same way. Where's that opening? Doesn't have to be beautiful to be solid. And that's not how I designed a board connection, but that's making good use of the one that's already there. All right, this is all ready to go back inside the amp now. Which is always the fun part on these. Get that LED to line up. And the push button. All right, that's pretty good. Let me get one or two screws in place just to help it remember where it wants to be. I have no problem with the Bill. I have no problem with Bill M. I don't think all his mods are that useful. Like the 100 microfarad filter cap on the first section of this is pointless. It's not going to magically make the output transformer larger, so you're not going to get those low end increases from it. Some good stuff in there, like the mids pot changes. The problem I have with Bill M mods is that people do them at home who have never worked on an amp, and they try to fit orange drops with great big lead spacing and larger diameter leads into the holes that these little ICs used to have. These are 5 and 7 millimeter and 10 millimeter spaced caps with very small, with holes in the board suitable for the leads that these caps come with. People try to fit an orange drop in there. It's a lot of strain on the pads and traces on the board, can destroy the pads and traces as you push the larger lead through. So you end up potentially damaging a lot of stuff and introducing a lot of higher mass stuff that can be prone to vibrational problems. And you're not getting any benefit because it's not going to fundamentally change the sound whether you've got an orange drop or one of these if the value of the cap stays the same, which most of them do in the Bill M stuff. And if you want to just change the value of the cap, get a Panasonic ECQ 630 volt. Say you want to go from a 47 nanofarad to a 22 nanofarad, go for it. It'll be the same 10 or 7.5 millimeter lead spacing. It'll fit through the designed holes in the board. Sorry, I'm trying to get some stuff that slid underneath the cabinet. And you'll have the sonic changer after without introducing any physical damage. I know it's a radical thought. I don't think, look at this way. I have a suspicion that Bill came up working on 70s Fenders and he got really happy with orange drops as a result. Or maybe he's just playing to people's perceptions. People perceive orange drops as being some magic bullet. People spend a lot of money to avoid time with a metronome. I used a lot of classic tones when they were in business. They're no longer in business. Hey, Zach, here are your new filter caps. Here are your new screen grid resistors. Here's your new input jack. You will soon see me cool off the bias and all this reconnected. And that won't take very long to do, and at which point we'll get to hear this thing. I'm going to stretch my legs for just a minute. I'll be back in about 5 minutes, and enjoy each other's company in the meantime. Thanks. All right, where was I? Oh, yes. Let me find my shoulder washers. No water running. Sorry to disappoint. I'm gonna do that to you guys. My bag of 440 by 3/8 screws tore open. I've got, guess what kind of screw everywhere in this box. Let's see here. Where are my shoulder washers? Here they are. I think I mentioned earlier that tonight and tomorrow I'm going to be reorganizing the shop. The onboard heater connection on these has not really been a problem. A pair of EL84s draws a lot less current than a pair of 6L6s, let alone, 6V6s, let alone a pair of 6L6s like you'd find in the twin reissue. So I've just not had that problem on this board compared to the deluxe and twin and super reverb reissues. Otherwise, I would be making that change. It's a same principle for how Dave Friedman got away with using quick connects for heaters on his Runt 20, though he used much better quick connects with much larger connections and short wire paths. That's one of the reasons it works okay here, is that here are the quick connects and here are the green wires coming from this board to the next board. So he has a pretty short path. He's going about 1.5 inches, really, 2 inches at the most in the fenders. That makes a difference. It's not optimal, but it's not worth changing in these. I've not ever had a failure. Let me find the washer and dress nut necessary for this. Here's the one. Those are the jacks. Just 1 second. There's a washer. We're halfway there. I've got switchcraft nuts all scattered over the bench, but they're on the other side of the amp, so let me walk around. Did I mention I was about to reorganize everything? I'm terrible about stuff in the heat of battle getting pushed off till tomorrow, then tomorrow never comes. So every 2-3 months, I have one whole day that just sucks. And I clean everything up. Somewhere is a shiny new one. I know that. No, I know where I got a whole box of them. I'm going to get that. Here we go. I have thousands of everything. I can sometimes find a few examples. This is the wrong damn nut. There we go. All right. So I like to put the shoulder washer on the bottom. Helps me self-center it. Flat one on top. Metal washer. That's not the right one. Authentic switchcraft. That's not the right one either. God dang it. I'll put this one on. This is the one that was on the foot switch. And I'll find another one for the foot switch. They're all the same, and I know I've got hundreds of them floating around here. Just not aware what one happens to be at the moment that I need it. I'll turn this so that it won't contact the board when you insert and remove a plug. Tighten that up as much as you can tighten on the shoulder washers. All right. Back to the box of nuts. Here's one, just sitting here in a different bowl. Okay. No, it's a 1/2 inch one. This is a good comedy. many thousand wrong nuts do I have floating around here? Let's see, is this it? No. This has got to be. Success. All right. That was ridiculous. True professional work here, folks. All right. Don't try this at home. All right, get those lock washers in there and line them up. See, if I was doing one of our regular videos, I would have paused the camera, found all the nuts, done all my fumbling and cussing off screen, and then resumed just in time to look really good at this. And I'm really good at the other bits of this, but finding stuff when the stuff is needed is not always easy. Sounded terrible stock on the early ones. Yeah, the early ones, they got that cap. Is it C9? Yeah, it's missing on the later ones. That just really sucked a lot of the joy out of Mudville. A note on the speaker and foot switch jacks on Blues Juniors. The speaker one's got a metal bushing. You can get it much tighter. The one for the foot switch, if you over tighten it, it will break. Ask me how I know. All right. The LED is always hard to line up. I'm gonna do that later because I need to tilt the amp up at a weird angle to access it. I'm just not going to do that right now. The nice thing about AC secondaries is it does not matter which goes where, because there's no polarity to them. I mean, it matters that the green's to the green, the red's to the red, and brown to the brown, and all that fun stuff, but doesn't matter which green goes where, or which brown goes where. All right, let's see here. Now that the amp's off, I'm going to try to get a nicer curve into these ribbons here. Make them even farther away from the blue primary. Brown here. And this red goes. Oops, I see what I did. That's all looking good. Let me put the pot sleeve things back in place first. Nick Orr, JTM45 reissue, does not have a bright cap. JTM45s, some did not have a bright cap, some had 100 picofarad, some had 500 picofarad. The other difference being some of them had 270K mixed resistors, others 470K mixed resistors. Some of those had a 250 picofarad bright cap or a 500 picofarad bright cap across the mixed resistor coming from the treble channel volume wiper. Those are the stock values you would find in various JHM45s, and those are the common places to play around with it. I showed and discussed that pretty thoroughly on the Germino Classic videos, I think the second one. Here's an interesting thing. They have D-ring, they have D-shaft pots here, where I'm supposed to put this like this and then tighten the set screw onto the flat part of the D. And if I do that, everything will be backwards. They changed the layout of the graphics on this, but they did not change what kind of D shaft. So they're actually not using the D shafts correctly. They have the set screw on the round part flattening up against the D. That's crazy. That's not just crazy, it's mechanically poor. But that's how they did it. And the guy will, Zach, not the guy, hey Zach, will not like it if his knobs all no longer correlate to the numbers. So I'll just try to do it without over tightening and cracking, because that's a really poor connection. If you use a D shaft pot, it pretty much tells you where your knobs, how your knobs are going to go and where your 5 and 7 o'clock positions are. And then you have to change the graphics to correlate to that. Don't have D shaft pots arguing with your graphics. And then compromise your structural integrity just to make the graphics designer happy. Yeah, the LED clamp on here is a pain in the butt. I can do it. I just have to tilt the amp up, and it's not really important. It'll just be floating off to the side for a minute. What is important is R51 right here. It's a 33K and a 24K. It's a voltage divider. It drops the voltage too low. It's not negative enough, and the output tubes burn. And as I've discussed in other videos, I just put a 68K in parallel with R51. And that gets me back about 24K for that voltage divider. The other stuff using that DC is not really affected at all. It doesn't really change the other bits connected to it, but it will make the output tubes sound better and last longer, all for the cost of a non-invasive thing. Now, while I had the board pulled, I could have removed R51 and put in a 24K resistor, but I did not, and I'll tell you why. I'm out of 24K resistors, and I looked at all the parts I needed to do this amp for Zach and realized I had all of them here except 24K resistor. And I'm not going to make him wait a week and pay $8 shipping for one resistor. So I'll do my standard method, like so. Trim the excess. You don't want those leads to contact R52. And while, yes, this is technically tack soldering, which is a no-no in a lot of my videos, I'm tack soldering a very low mass thing. I'm working really fast and hot, and it's not going to be any issue whatsoever. It's not going to mess up the solder connection on the other side of the board, and that part will not come loose, and there's no strain placed on that solder joint by that resistor body. All right, so just in case I did something really, really bad, which I doubt, I rarely do, but I'm going to turn on the current limiter to power it on. There's your power LED. And let me find a guitar. I think I got it around here somewhere. Kick the light in the process, as you saw. When I get the room all cleaned up in the next day or two, maybe I'll show the space where I work and how many damn light stands I have to work around to make these things look good for you guys. Takes a lot of work to lift this schedule. All right, this is this Strat with the Thornbucker and the Mojo Tone quiet coils. And it would probably sound a lot better if I remembered to plug in the speaker. Heater flash on that output tube. Let's repeat that process since I was looking at picking up the guitar when that happened. Would I recommend replacing the Jensen for ET65? I don't know. I would live with the Jensen. How much money do you want to throw to Blues Junior? The one last week, the guy put in that Neo. What Neo? Which Neo was that? I don't even remember which Neo it was. I didn't care for the sound. I didn't think it was that much improvement over stock. Very much light. Veteran 30 and the ET65 would both sound a lot better than this. Just how much money do you want to throw to Blues Junior? Yeah, the old screen resistor, it shook out from the tube PCB, I'm pretty sure. But let me verify before I power it back on, just in case. What if I'm wrong? Yeah, it shook out when I had the board pulled. Anyway, let me watch the heater flash. I'm not seeing any heater flash. Might have been a reflection that the camera exacerbated. But I will go back. When this is done, I'll turn it off for like 30 minutes, let these really cool off, and then go back. That was a unique sound. That was the sound of me dropping my pick on the strings. Someone used to sample that. I've got the mids at like 3, the bass at like 4, the treble at like almost 4. I see people playing these things like this. And that will give you that mid-range boxiness. I hear the treble, the mids are like 3. That's where the mids are on most Fenders. This thing's got more mids than most classic Fenders. And with that bright cap in here, I find the treble is not necessary to be up that high. yeah, so the amp is sounding good. The only thing I did not see was the heater flash that you guys saw when it first powered up, because I was getting a guitar. And I didn't see it the second time. You guys said you didn't see it the second time. So I'm going to power it off and let these tubes all the way cool down, because they're going to be hot for a while. And then turn it on and see if we have any heater flash. If so, that's not necessarily very worrisome. It can happen. Overall, the amp is sounding really good now. Now, Zach, are you there right now? I know you were on the chat. This amp doesn't have a bright switch. It has a fat switch, which engages a what do you call it? Cathode bypass cap. The amp actually sounds better all the time if you leave the fat engaged and just keep the volume lower, but people aren't going to do that. But the bright cap here, C3, I like to snip that out. The amp sounds a lot better. Zach, are you here? If Zach left, I'll call him after this. I would dearly love to snip C3. It just sounds a lot better without it. But I just met him this morning for a phone call, and he saw that video. So I don't know whether he would trust me on that. It's a big leap of faith. I mean, I could always put it back, but no one's ever asked me to. You get to use the treble control a lot more nicely on these. But other than that, this amp came in because it had a defective. Hey, Zach, this bright cap, you will never miss it. It sounds so painful in this, and the treble can't be turned up above much. It's a hard thing. It's a hard sounding thing, and the amp sounds so much better without it. You'll still have lots of high end, but it's your call. If you have questions about it, don't feel pressured, because this is in a live video. I'll call you after this. We'll discuss it. Take PCB out and wire by hand. People say this a lot on the videos I have about hot rods and stuff. I just want to let you know that if I were to do that, it would cost huge amounts of money, and it's a terrible platform for that. They have 1-inch holes. No, I'm sorry, 75. I can't remember the diameter. Anyway, the hole diameter in the chassis that these tubes pass through to get to the PCB. Trust me. Cool. All right, I'm gonna snip that cap. You cannot mount chassis-mounted tube sockets to the holes in these chassis. So you'd have to come up with all kinds of solutions just to mechanically get stuff in there. And at the end of the day, it's just it's not worth it. I mean, if you want something better, buy something better. This is not a bad amp, but it is what it is. Goodbye, banshee cap. I'm gonna leave it physically in the amp, disconnected at one end. Won't do any harm there. That way, if anyone ever wants to put it back, they'll know exactly what's been changed. Let's power it on. I'm going to watch the tubes for heater flash, and then we'll listen to it without that bright cap. You're going to make hand-wired Blues Junior clones for $3,500. Well, I'll make hand-wired good amps for $3,400 and put you out of business. So, mwahaha. All right, so the bright cap out, I'm going to turn the treble up to just below noon. Let me give a little bit more on the master volume. That was neck middle on the Strat. Here's a middle bridge. something, I'll let you hear it. Here's without the fat switch. The fat switch engages the cathode bypass cap, which gives that stage much more low end and also gives you more gain at the audio frequencies, and so it gets you a boost. But I find that the amp sounds its best if that cathode bypass cap is always in place and you just get your volume down. You don't use it as a boost, you use it as a better sound. It's a lot more low end. Then you can turn the treble up to compensate and you're back to a really nice sound. So that's a nice sounding amp, and without the fat switch and the bass turned down a little bit, it'll still get bright. The WG10 is a fantastic sounding speaker, the G10C, WGS G10C. I've not tried the G10S. The G10C is a phenomenal choice for Princeton. It sounds like a mid-60s C10N, which you didn't get a chance to hear very often because most of the 10-inch Fenders came with Oxfords. Yeah, this Jensen's still a limiting factor. Let me hook up my external cab real quick and see how this compares for you guys. This cab's closer to this microphone, but I'll turn the master up a little bit to compensate. Going to sound to you guys at home. But I mean, the difference is pretty drastic. It's just a matter of how much money you want to spend on a Blues Junior. I think that the C12K, is that what this is? Yeah, the C12K that Jensen makes, that Fender uses in so many of their amps, is probably the worst possible choice of any Jensen speaker made. I don't know why Fender chose the C12K. It's a nasty sounding speaker. It's very boxy. It's harsh. It's kind of 2D. But you know, that wasn't my job here. My job here was to fix the input jack, and after speaking to Zach, to make sure that the amp is going to last a long time without radically changing it. So here's where we're at. All right, let me put the guitar down. And now let's reconnect that LED. Which is always fun to do on these. There it goes. All right. And I'll let this cool down and recheck for the heater flash that was reported. Other than that, I think this amp sounded good, and I've got to put some new zip ties in to replace the ones that I took out. But that's no big deal. I think this is a pretty good place to wrap it up. Remember, I'm going to be doing an actual Q&A with no amp on the bench in front of me tomorrow night, probably about 8 p.m. Central Time, so it's 9 Eastern, 6 West Coast. And then Friday, November 4th, I'm going to be on Tone Talk. So if you want to hear me yap away even more, you'll have many opportunities in the coming days and weeks. So peace out, y'all.